Hey guys, welcome back to HMA Gallery. Have you ever been out in your garden or your backyard or out in the woods somewhere and just looked up at the beautiful sky and took in the fresh air, just leaned up against a tree and then glanced over and saw a gnome? And then it kind of freaked you out a little bit, but then you realize a gnome is a mythical creature and it's kind of cute and funny looking and cool the more you look at it. Well, today we are going to be drawing our very own garden gnomes. So come along, draw with me, and let's have some fun together. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab watercolor paper because I want to paint this when I'm all finished. So I'm going to start somewhere in the middle of my paper. My paper is up and down so that we have plenty of room for the head and the body. And I'm going to start somewhere in the middle. And I am going to make a nose. So for our gnome's nose, we're just going to do an oval. You just sketch it nice and lightly in the middle of our paper. Now these are funny little gnomes, so their eyes aren't going to be showing. Their eyes are going to be hidden under their larger-than-life hats. So we have our hat coming down over here, curling up, and it comes down over here and curls up as well, just like that. Then we're going to have this come in a little bit at an angle. There we go. I'm going to try to make it somewhat even, but it doesn't have to be perfectly even. Then we're going to come in here, have another line come up. This one's going to curl in a little and arch up toward the top. And then this one going to come up and just kind of wiggle in a little and back out. So we have a little bit of asymmetry going on here. And then we're going to have this piece start over here. This one's going to come in and then we're going to curl it back around, out and down. That's where the tip of our hat is going to be. So now we have to bring this over. So this is going to come in, give a little squiggle, and then slowly come back down, around and connect to that side of the hat. So there's our hat. Then we can have some little squiggles on our puff ball on the end of our hat, just like this. And then we're going to come down and continue working on the rest of our gnome. So our gnome is going to be mainly a big beard. He's a funny little gnome. So we're going to come over here. I'm going to start in just a hair, not all the way on the edge of the hat, just come in a little ways. Out, back in, so we formed a little point there, and then this one's going to come down and back in, and then this one's going to come down and back in, and this one's going to come down like so, curl back the other way. So notice how this point kind of ended where the center of the nose is. So now we're going to work our points over from here. So once again, starting in just a little ways, going to curl it out, back in. Maybe have a point come down a little ways like this, pointing down instead of all of them going up. And then we're going to have another one over and down, and then one more coming out and then connecting. We're look at my beard here. I think I like that. So there's our funny beard. And then he's gonna have some squiggles inside of the beard where he's got hair. Maybe some over here a little ways. A couple in here. Maybe one more down here. I think I like that. Actually, I might add one more little one over there. Okay. So we have our hat, our nose, our beard, and now he needs some little legs sticking out at the bottom. So I'm going to bring my paper up and I'm going to do the legs coming out from where that beard is. So I have a leg coming down here and curling over where the pant leg is, and then maybe one more over here and coming back over and connecting to that beard. So if you can imagine, there's a straight line going behind that beard, but we don't want to cover up the front of the beard. So then we're going to have our gnome shoes like so, just curling out and back down and around. And then out here, we'll do the same thing. Mine aren't perfectly symmetrical, so I'm going to erase this one just a hair. I think I made this one a little too big. That's okay. That's why we sketch first. That way if we mess up, we can erase and redo it. There we go. All right. So here is our sketch of our gnome. And then on the second part, I'm going to show you how to paint it. All right, now comes the fun part where we get to decorate our little gnome by painting him. So I have my Praying watercolor set here. This is my favorite one. It's Praying 16 count, and it has all these beautiful colors inside and this paint palette that's really easy to use to mix colors and blend colors. And yeah, I really love this paint set, so I highly recommend it. No, they did not pay me to say that. So what we're going to start out with is going to be the hat. So I think I'm going to make my hat red. I'm going to get some water, put it in my red paint here, and then I'm going to start by painting the outside of my hat. So with watercolor paint, it's important to remember that anywhere you put paint, as long as you don't go outside of an edge, your paint will stay within those parameters. If you accidentally make a mistake and go outside of the edge and have to fix it by blotting with a paper towel, wait for it to dry before you try to go back and add more paint, because once a spot is wet, if paint touches that wet spot, it will bleed out into the wet area. So I'm just carefully painting an outline on my hat here, just kind of outlining it. I'm going to come around a little more here, trying to stay within my lines, like so. Start here, pull it up and around. All right, so this is what I have so far. It's just outlined with my red. I'm going to rinse out my brush, pulling just water. I'm going to start to spread the red throughout the hat so that I get some fading. When we do it this way, what it does is makes the center part lighter than the outside edge, but it gives it a nice smooth fade. Since it's watercolor, it's always going to have a little bit of a textured design to it as it dries, and that's okay, because we want this to be kind of artsy. It's supposed to be a fun little gnome. So get more water and just continue pulling that paint into the center here, just like this. All right. More water and continue on. If at any point you want to add more red, maybe you're saying, ooh, I wish that spot was darker. Go back, get more red, and add more red. This is the beauty of watercolor paint. If you need more of something, just add more. There we go. So now my corner here is darker. I'm gonna pull some of that red across the nose, like that, and just let it kind of bleed up into the rest of the hat, like that. Okay. I think I like that. I might add a little more red up here. I think I want this spot to be a little darker. So I'm gonna come back in with a little more red, like so. Okay, there. Maybe a little in this corner here. Then we're gonna wait for that hat to dry before adding any more detail to it. While the hat is drying, we're not gonna work on the nose, because if we accidentally bump that red, guess what's gonna happen? All that color is gonna go down into my nose, or the color from the nose is gonna go up into the hat, and it's not gonna look like I want it to look. So I'm gonna leave that spot alone for a little bit, and I'm gonna come down to his pants, and I think I want his pants to be, I'm feeling blue. So I'm gonna get some blue paint, and I'm just going to carefully, trying my best to stay in my outline, paint my blue in his pants, like that. A little tiny dot went over into my beard, so I'm going to blot it. Always blot, never wipe, or you'll rip your watercolor paper. Up like that. Okay, maybe get a little more over here. Let's start on this side. Like that. And rinse out my brush and put a little tiny dot of water in there so it can pull it over, just like that. All right, now I'm gonna pause for a moment and let this dry for a couple of minutes before I continue on with any other area. All right, I think things are drying up enough that we can continue on with the next part. So I'm gonna work on the shoes, and I'm gonna get myself some brown. I'm gonna do the same thing as I did before. I'm gonna do my outline first, nice and dark. It's not dark enough, use a little more paint, less water, and we're going to outline it like so. And then I'm going to rinse out my brush really good. Wipe off the excess. We don't want our bristles drenched in water. And pull the water through, just like that. And let that water do its magic. And if there's any spot that you want darker, just add a little more paint. All right, and I'm gonna come over here and outline my other shoe. Move this so you can see better what I'm doing. There we go. This, give it a nice, good outline. Then rinse out my brush really good, wipe off the excess water on the edge, and then gently pull it through once again. There we go. Maybe I want a little bit more brown back here. Gently tap and give a little more brown from the heel of both of my shoes. And there we go. And now I'm going to let that dry. And if at any point you want a part of your shoe lighter or something lighter, like you overdid the color, and just come back through and gently pat it with a paper towel. And it gives it that nice light effect. Only pat with a clean, dry paper towel. then if you want to go back through and brush everything out a little smoother once more, kind of blend that nicely, you can do that. Ta-da! There's our brown shoes. Now I'm going to move up to the nose. The nose is the only part of his skin that's actually showing. So this is where I'm going to make my own color in my palette. I'm going to get a little bit of brown, put it in my palette, rinse out my brush so I don't accidentally mix colors. I'm going to get a little bit of orange, mix that, and a tiny bit of pink, mix that. Then I'm just going to water it down. Now if I'm not happy with it, maybe I want to add a different, make it a little different shade, maybe a little more pink. I'll add a little more pink, blend it like that. And I can come back through and have that nice peachy skin tone that I'm going to give this one. Now I love making these little gnomes. These guys are super easy and super fun. And you can do so many different varieties of colors with their clothes, with their skin tones. You can make it a darker tan, you can make it a brown, you can make it lighter peach. Whatever color you want, you can make it. So there we go. And now for the edges of the beard, I want to give it a little bit of gray highlights because we want him to look like he has a white beard and a white pom-pom up here on his hat, but we don't want to overdo it with the gray, so we want to give it what's called shadowing or highlights. I'm going to take a little bit of black, put it in my palette, and then I'm going to add bunches of water, just like that. Now I have a nice light gray. I'm going to come back through here, just a little bit of gray on the edge. And I think that's a little dark, so what I'm going to do is blot it out. That's all I have to do. I have that nice light gray shadowing that I want. So then I'll come over here, add a little more under the hat over here. Being super careful not to bump that nose because the nose is still wet and we don't want to pull any of that gray out. And then we can have some little shadowing in here, in my little squigglies, just like that. So then, if it's still too dark, a clean part of my paper towel, I'm going to go in and blot it because I really like where I put everything. Everything's just a little darker than I wanted. But when I blot it, boom, it gives me the exact shade of gray that I wanted, where it's just barely noticeable. I'm going to add a little more down here, like this, a little more through the edges of my beard. There we go. Then I'm going to come through and put a little bit on my pom-pom too. Just a little bit on the edges of my pom-pom here and a little bit over here. And there we go. I think I'm happy with that. So now we're going to let our gnome dry completely, and once he's all dry, we're going to come back and outline it with a skinny black marker to make it pop. So this is the last part of our gnome. What we're going to do is take a marker. I have a extra fine point Sharpie permanent marker, but you can use any fine tip marker or ink pen. And I'm going to carefully outline all of my lines. Even the lines in the beard, like this. Everywhere I put a pencil mark is where I'm going to outline. So you just continue on until you're all done. And there you have it, our funny little gnome, all finished and outlined. And I did a little bit of hatching with my marker to give it a little more detail with some extra shading. And I want to show you one of my other examples just to show you that you can do an unlimited number of different colors and designs for your gnomes. So here's another one that I made with a little bit different hat, different colors on him. So there you have it. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you had fun drawing and painting our little gnomes together, and I hope that you'll check out the rest of my channel and like and subscribe if you like what you see. Thanks again for joining me. Take care and God bless. All right, got a joke for you. What show do gnomes watch when they want to spruce up the garden? Extreme Makeover, Gnome Edition.